Welcome back to the channel. Here you'll find the fastest updates on breaking news, shocking secrets, and dramatic predictions for times. The young and the restless. Who will betray whom? What secrets are about to be revealed? And what horrific tragedy awaits the characters in Genoa City? Subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us to discover the unmissable developments right now. Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the ever-evolving drama of Genoa City. Today is a beautiful day to unpack the explosive emotional shockwaves that are currently tearing our favorite characters apart, leaving a trail of shattered hearts in their wake. The emotional landscape of Genoa City has been entirely fractured by a series of devastating revelations, and at the very center of this catastrophic collapse is Sally. For months, Sally had been painstakingly attempting to rebuild her life, laying down a fragile foundation of hope alongside Billy Abbott. She had convinced herself that despite his historically erratic behavior, Billy could offer her the stability and unconditional support she desperately needed, especially as she navigated the terrifying but beautiful journey. Sally had poured every ounce of her remaining resilience into her relationship and her newly minted corporate venture, Spectra Charles, believing she had finally escaped the suffocating shadows of. However, the universe had an entirely different, incredibly cruel plan in store for her, one that would systematically dismantle every single illusion of safety she had managed to construct. The initial tremor that threatened to bring Sally's world crashing down occurred during what was supposed to be a triumphant moment at the Spectra Charles launch event. Amidst the flashing cameras and the corporate applause, the atmosphere was suddenly paralyzed by the shocking, highly public return of Elena. The sheer visual of Elena walking into the crowded room would have been enough to cause a stir, but it was the infant she cradled in her arms that sent a lethal shockwave straight through Sally's heart. The baby, bearing undeniable and striking Newman features, was a living, breathing testament to a past that Sally had tried so desperately to bury. But the true psychological devastation was delivered when the child's name was revealed to be Ava, a name that carried the immense, suffocating weight of Sally's most profound tragedy. For Sally, the presence of this new baby Ava was not merely a surprise. It was a violent, visceral trigger that forcefully ripped open the deepest emotional wounds she possessed. The haunting memory of her own lost child with Adam Newman came flooding back with agonizing clarity, plunging her into a state of absolute emotional paralysis. She found herself standing in the middle of a crowded room, entirely consumed by a suffocating wave of grief, feeling like an isolated outsider in the narrative of her own life. The cruel irony of Adam now being faced with the sudden reality of fatherhood to a child named Ava, while their own Ava was nothing but a painful memory, was a psychological burden that Sally simply couldn't. Her position in Adam's periphery and her own sense of maternal security began to violently unravel in real time. Adam Newman, standing just a few feet away during this catastrophic revelation, was simultaneously struck by his own overwhelming tidal wave of guilt. Watching the color drain from Sally's face as she locked eyes with the infant, Adam experienced a profound, sickening realization of the enduring pain his past had inflicted upon him. He could see the exact moment Sally's heart shattered all over again, and the immense remorse he felt was entirely paralyzed. Adam has always harbored a complex, deeply rooted affection for Sally, and witnessing her endure this specific brand of torture reignited his fierce, protective instincts. He knew that the impending custody battles and the chaotic family dynamics surrounding Elena and the new baby would only serve as a constant, agonizing reminder of everything Sally had lost, making him acutely hyper-vigilant regarding her emotional well-being. While Sally was drowning in the resurrected grief of her past, the man who was supposed to be her present anchor was rapidly descending into a spiral of manic self-destruction. Billy Abbott, consumed by an obsessive, toxic need to assert dominance and exact revenge in the corporate arena, had completely lost sight of his personal responsibilities. His blinding fixation on Chancellor Industries and his deeply rooted insecurities regarding his mother's lack of faith in him had pushed him over a dangerous psychological edge. Instead of being the supportive partner Sally desperately required during this vulnerable time, Billy had secretly transformed into her most dangerous adversary, orchestrating a ruthless campaign of corporate sabotage against Spectre Charles, the very company he had once grandiosely gifted to her. Billy's betrayal was not merely a matter of business. It was a profound, calculated exploitation of Sally's trust during the most fragile period of her life. He utilized her pregnancy and her emotional distractions as a smokescreen to systematically undermine her authority and sabotage her professional endeavors, all to serve his own chaotic agenda. Billy had convinced himself that his actions were justified in the grand scheme of his corporate warfare, entirely blinded by his own hubris to the catastrophic damage he was inflicting on the woman carrying his child. His manic state had completely severed his connection to reality, leaving him operating on a frequency of pure, unadulterated selfishness that would soon have irreversible consequences. The collision course between Billy's reckless sabotage and Adam's protective guilt reached its explosive climax during a highly volatile confrontation between the two men. Driven by his characteristic arrogance and a desperate need to maintain control, Billy cornered Adam, subjecting him to an aggressive, relentless interrogation. This brutal tactic, intended to intimidate Adam and assert dominance, was a spectacular miscalculation on Billy's part. As Billy aggressively pushed for answers, entirely oblivious to his own glaring hypocrisy, Adam closely observed the erratic, unhinged nature of Billy's behavior. The sheer audacity of Billy attempting to play the moral superior while secretly destroying Sally's livelihood was enough to push Adam past his breaking point. In that defining moment, Adam made a fateful, life-altering decision. He realized with absolute clarity that Billy was no longer just a chaotic nuisance. He was in active, profound danger to Sally and her. Adam recognized that Billy's toxic spiral was inevitably going to drag Sally down into a dark, inescapable abyss of legal and emotional ruin. Driven by a desperate need to shield Sally from the impending fallout, and perhaps seeking a twisted form of redemption for the pain he had caused her with Ava, Adam resolved to become the ultimate whistleblower. He decided that the only way to truly protect Sally was to shatter her illusions completely, forcing her to confront the horrifying reality of the man she was sleeping next to. The subsequent revelation was a masterclass in emotional devastation. Adam approached Sally with a heavy heart, meticulously dismantling every single lie and deception Billy had constructed. He laid bare the undeniable proof of Billy's corporate sabotage, exposing the intricate ways in which Billy had actively worked to ruin Spectre Charles behind her back. For Sally, listening to Adam's confession was akin to experiencing a physical blow. The sheer disbelief rapidly morphed into a horrifying, suffocating realization that her entire relationship was built on a foundation of malicious exploitation. The man she had trusted to protect her had instead preyed upon her vulnerability, utilizing her darkest moments as an opportunity to advance his own selfish ambition. This catastrophic betrayal served as the absolute final straw for Sally, acting as the catalyst that merged her past traumas with her present. The excruciating pain of the Ava revelation was now violently compounded by the absolute destruction of her trust in Billy. She realized with sickening clarity that she was entirely alone, trapped in a toxic cycle with a man who was inherently incapable of prioritizing her safety or the safety of their unborn child. The boundaries she had tried to establish were completely obliterated, leaving her standing in the smoldering ruins of a life she had fought so incredibly hard to build. The emotional whiplash of losing her past and her future simultaneously pushed Sally to the absolute brink of her psychological endurance. The public perception of this unfolding tragedy has been nothing short of explosive, with the viewing audience uniting in a massive wave of outrage directed squarely at Billy Abbott. Fans have taken to every available platform to fiercely criticize Billy's relentless recklessness, pointing out his exhausting, historical pattern of destroying every good thing that ever enters his life. The collective frustration has reached a boiling point, with viewers vehemently condemning his actions as unforgivable, especially considering Sally's pregnancy and her recent psychological. There is a resounding, unified demand from the fan base for Sally to finally recognize her own worth and permanently sever ties with Billy, urging her to seek the peace and stability she so desperately deserves, far away from his toxic orbit. The urgency of the fans' pleas is heavily amplified by the looming shadow of Billy's impending legal destruction. His manic behavior has not been confined to corporate sabotage. His violent confrontation with Kane Ashby has guaranteed that he is currently staring down the barrel of severe, life-altering criminal charges. The reality that Billy is likely heading for prison has cast a terrifying, suffocating shadow over Sally's future. She is now forced to confront the horrifying prospect of navigating the remainder of her pregnancy entirely alone, facing the daunting reality of single motherhood, while the father of her child is embroiled in a massive, scandalous, criminal trial that threatens to consume everyone in its vicinity. Faced with this apocalyptic scenario, Sally's fierce, maternal protective instincts have completely taken over, leading to a heartbreaking and agonizing dilemma. She finds herself trapped between her desire to have a family and her absolute terror of bringing an innocent child into Billy's criminal war zone. The thought of her baby growing up in the shadow of Billy's instability, constantly subjected to the chaos and danger that follow him like a plague, is a reality Sally simply refuses to accept. This profound maternal desperation has pushed her to contemplate the most difficult, devastating choices imaginable, forcing her to evaluate the very viability of her pregnancy in the face of such overwhelming darkness. In a final, tear-filled confrontation that will undoubtedly go down as one of the most tragic moments in Genoa City history, Sally delivered her ultimate, devastating ultimatum. She stood before the man she once believed was her future, her heart completely shattered, but her resolve entirely unbroken. She made it explicitly clear that she could not and would not bring a child into a relationship defined by uncertainty, betrayal, and impending incarceration. The sheer gravity of her declaration hung in the air, a heavy, suffocating testament to the absolute destruction Billy had wrought. She outlined her boundaries with a fierce, uncompromising strength, signaling that she was fully prepared to walk away from everything rather than subject her unborn child to his toxic legacy. Sally's decision to permanently leave Billy Abbott marks a monumental shift in the emotional tectonic plates of the city. She is choosing herself, her sanity, and the potential safety of her future over a love that has proven to be nothing more than a dangerous, destructive illusion. The secret of baby Ava, combined with the exposure of Billy's insidious corporate sabotage, served as the definitive catalyst that finally broke the spell, allowing Sally to see the grim reality of her situation. As she packs up the emotional remnants of her shattered life, she is stepping out into an unknown, terrifying future, completely untethered, but fiercely determined to survive the storm that Billy has unleashed upon her. As Sally walks away, leaving a devastated and legally doomed Billy in her wake, the ultimate question remains hanging in the heavy, tension-filled air. Will Billy's inevitable arrest force a final tragic collision between the former lovers, or will his complete downfall create a permanent, unbridgeable void? Furthermore, with Adam having positioned himself as Sally's fierce protector during this catastrophic fallout, one must wonder if this shared trauma will reignite the dormant embers of their complicated past. As the sirens approach and the legal walls close in on Billy Abbott, Sally Spectra is left staring into the abyss of a drastically altered destiny, leaving audiences breathlessly waiting to see who will survive the impending wreckage.